Welcome to Vlog Thursday number 335. And yeah, lots of exciting things going on. So let's see here. Oh, greetings. I see a Jason Slagle in here. And if you've seen the announcement, you know, me and him are working together. Someone could have deferred that by seeing us do some of the videos together and things like that. But hey, I wanted to make it official and all that kind of fun stuff. The things I want to talk about really quick here, and we'll start right here with the hodgepodge of idiots. Um, Actually, so we're calling ourselves, and this is something that Jason Slagle, Matt Lee, and other people you may have seen on the channel. We're doing a bike ride, raising donations. So I will be doing some pedaling, lots of pedaling. I don't know that I'm going to be able to go as far as them, but there's a link right in the description below if you'd like to donate. That's going to be up tomorrow. And that, that's going to happen on June 24th of 2023. Just I like to throw some dates in here. Working together, what's the project? We merged our companies together. So that is a project into itself. And we'll be covering the business side of that on the Business Technicalities channel. So it's Lawrence.video/BIZ. So it's, definitely going to be fun talking about all the things related to the merger. Why is Bitwarden so cheap? That's an interesting question. I think because they're not greedy. There's an easy way to say it. Wendell from Level 1 Text has actually talked about this a couple times. He goes, despite cloud costs coming down as things scale, the price always seems to go up. And a lot of this comes down to once a company has a popular product, they're looking for returns on investment. And sometimes because they know they're popular in the market, they may multiply things higher than you might expect. But hey, nonetheless, pricing is never an easy. It's always a complicated topic for any business, software, etc. I think Bitwarden is fairly priced. That's my opinion on it. So yes. Oh, 2 days. Yes, 2 days away. That's for the bike ride. So that is definitely exciting. I've been biking more and things like that. So yes, we are pedaling for donations. Absolutely. I will definitely say that. That is for sure. I do have one question that was emailed to me for Blog Thursday. William asks, as a medium-sized nonprofit, I can't ignore the enormous benefits of EDR brings to security. Are you aware of any EDR offerings that are aggressive for nonprofit discounts? And I don't really think so in terms of that. Most of the EDR vendors, we really like Huntress. I think they're very reasonably priced, but I don't know that there's any special nonprofit pricing for them. And I think the reasonable price of things like Huntress, but it's not just EDR is just a very small component when you think about overall security practices. And I know it's a burden for a nonprofit to go, wow, this much has to go for security, because it's about patching, it's about managing access, it's about setting the systems up securely, and about EDR. So because you have to have the full security package if you're someone or an IT services company doing it, this is probably a good point that Jason has. If you check out what TechSoup has, there's probably some options. But yeah, there's a lot that it's challenging. TechSoup is a nonprofit, so let me pull this up. I kind of forgot about them. I haven't seen anyone bring this up in a long time. It is TechSoup.org. So explore our nonprofit tech marketplace. So there's discounts that can be had. So yeah, for William, and I know you're a regular watcher of the channel. Hopefully this is helpful for you. Good luck with that. And also, are you waiting for passkeys with Bitwarden? Cautiously optimistic. I think passkeys is neat. It's a nice iteration. So I'm still a big YubiKey fan. I still have mine right here. I really like these. I've done videos on them. I know this is different than passkeys, but I don't know. I will see how the adoption is for passkeys. I actually think because some of the big companies are behind it, we're going to see more adoption of it. But it's not the end of all problems. It's just changing things a little bit. But I'm still excited to see it. I'm always cautiously optimistic when I see new security things out there, because so many things were solved. And for example, if you follow Steve Gibson, he talked about the whole squirrel thing. I think it's awesome. He really took the time to engineer something clever, but he doesn't have a name like Apple and Google. So until we get the mass adoption, that's always the challenge. There's all kinds of cool, secure things out there, but until you can get them built and integrated into the things we use, they'll never really get mass adoption and become very popular. But hey, I'm still excited that it's coming. Um, I think they have some 365 ATP stuff discounted. That was going to be back over on the TechSoup. So yeah, check out TechSoup.org. That is definitely kind of neat if you're in the nonprofit space. What do you think about Ubiquiti potentially releasing a NAS? Cody Mac.com showed a photo of the EA site where it appeared in a photo. Thoughts? Hot garbage. I don't know. Ubiquiti's got a lot of money, and that money's letting them just throw things at the wall and see what sticks. I don't blame them for doing, or trying to do, I should say, innovative things, but you have to really be in something for a long term. And I think they should focus on making all of their stuff that they're good at better, which by the way, they have. They finally, after a number of years of doing it in a different manner, have decided to come back to the real world and go, I guess we should integrate OpenVPN. This is probably something people would like to see in a firewall. And I'm happy to see that Ubiquiti is improving their firewall stuff. So back to, is it going to be hot garbage? I don't know. They may do a really good job on it. I think they've done a reasonably good job for their NVR system, for example. Their NVR and their cameras, I think it's a nice platform. It's got some nice features. Availability is tough, but that's more of a supply chain, not a Ubiquiti issue. Trust me, no company wants more customers trying to buy the product they can't get it. They want to sell as much product as the market can demand and match that. But I know supply chain issues, and that's just because it takes from the time of inception till delivery of product. There's a lot of time that goes into it. And if you happen to choose one of the chips that are less available than others, I know that's what drives a lot of it. So it can be a challenge. YubiKeys are great. Love showing text that you can store SSH keys on them. Yes. And you can even, I have a video. Now, oddly, it's not integrated as well as I'd like. Once again, it's in the latest versions of SSH, but you can use part of the, not just storing your keys, but you can use the YubiKey as part of your authentication with SSH. I did a video on it, but the challenge comes down to not your system, which is probably modern and up to date, but the system that you log into supporting it. So create some challenge. I wish YubiKey could set more logins. So many websites these days, login to FA is good practice. Back to the adoption problem. That's really what it comes down to. Last thing I want to mention is, and go quiet, respect from Poland. You are famous in the Polish IT world. Oh, that's cool. Long ago, let's see, would have been, I am third generation. Some of my family was from Poland, but a third or fourth is a while ago, so I don't really have any deep connections. But there's actually some Polish communities here that are pretty cool. Wyandotte is a adjacent city to where I live, and it's got a good Polish community, and you can even get some good Polish food. Yeah, it's unfortunate that for Steve, SQR was like life work question recommendation for a self-hosted email service spam virus filter. If you only trust cloud email, or do you only trust the cloud email service is so critical? I don't see the point in trying to host your own email. It's a headache. Matter of fact, we just had a client who I think is hosting their own email send me not a nice letter because he thought we were ignoring them. Turns out he couldn't figure out how to get us not in the spam. So we had to message him in a different way to get that. This is not the first time this has happened. I have people that can't figure out why they can't get emails from my forums. It's always I've got like a DM on Twitter where a person can't get emails from my forums. I'm like, I'm using like normal stuff and it sends it to all the major providers. Your email server has a problem. And then they're like, well, I need help troubleshooting my email server. And I'm like, this is why I don't really recommend email. The other side is true too. Getting yourself off of the spam list and staying off of it is hard. We just had a business reach out to us because they went with some cheap, I don't even know what they were doing, something else. And they're like, oh no, using Office 365 is too expensive, but it's just not worth it. Get a copy of your email so you have backups of it. That's something you can do. But as far as hosting it, even I don't want to deal with that. I used to be a mail server admin. I'm actually very well versed in this, and I have no interest in doing it anymore. I'll just be honest. Uh, I just donated a mere pittance to the rye, but if everybody's watching throws in a meager pittance, we can make a sizable dent. That is awesome, and thank you very much for your donation. I greatly appreciate it. That is awesome. Because this is, by the way, this is all going to the Ride for MS. So this is, in case anyone's wondering, I'm just pedaling, and so are all the teammates pedaling. So that's how we're doing here. What are your thoughts on Linux packages such as OpenVPN requiring GUIs to be made by third parties? Is it an efficient use of development time? Linux packages are requiring GUIs. I don't know that I've ever wanted a UI for. Oh, I mean, like to me, OpenVPN first, it's integrated in pfSense. So there's a common setup, but it's integrated into the UDMs, it's integrating lots of things. So generally, the integrator who writes it will put something together. And by the way, you can get a whole UI system from OpenVPN. They have a whole standalone system. As far as you're talking about like the endpoint UI, I don't know. I mean, it's once again, I don't see any problem with the one there that they have. So I see Jason jumping in over here too. I still run a mail server and it sucks. Yes. It does. But I don't know about the OpenVPN thing. I've never really put a lot of thought into it because it's just not been a big deal to me. The GNOME integrated one works. Well, I found a bug in it that I don't know if it got fixed. It probably got fixed in an update. I had found a bug I was running into, but I couldn't reproduce it on someone else's computer. So it might be a Tom bug. I frequently, if I open VPN, I'm just habit of doing it from the command line. But there is a GNOME element you can do in Ubuntu that works. It was working fine until it wasn't in my Pop OS. I didn't troubleshoot it very much. I know some Polish magic, and I like Polish kielbasa, but that's about the extent of my Polish heritage. Oh, cool. Jason runs a Mavis and RSpam. It works, but it's work. Yeah, I used to run. What did I used to run for my mail server? Proc mail recipes that I piped through. I can't remember the service that I was using at the time. It's been so many years, I've now forgotten. But it was proc mail combined with third-party service. I know we used to use the Sophos was our AV system because back then it was really a big deal that Sophos had an AV integration that all worked in Linux because I did all Linux mail servers. If I had to take a stab in the dark, because I'm pretty sure Jason runs a BSD mail server. If I had to guess, Jason's actually a big free BSD guy. Dude, if you think you want self-hosted email, you probably want is white label email, which is super easy. Your choice of MS or Google or Amazon. Yes. 5K for home lab. What recommendations? You can buy a lot for 5K. I wouldn't necessarily, unless electricity is a big concern, you can find a lot of used equipment on eBay and things like that. I'm assuming based on the way you put the money thing there and as pounds that you're in the somewhere like the UK. I don't know what the pricing is there, but if electricity is a concern, do look at building some of the low voltage stuff. But it's not about home lab recommendations in terms of hardware. It more comes down to what do you plan to do with it, and that's really where the real question comes in. What do you plan to use it for? That's what drives what you're going to buy for it. It's a good discussion to have over my forum. So, what does the future of MSPs look like? More of the same. The MSP community is interesting. It's actually getting more and more mature. I think the future that many of us and Jason Sagal will probably chime in on this because it's something we are aligned on and something we think about is we need to get some better certifications. So the small businesses, because if I was not in the tech space and it was my task to pick an IT provider, I don't want that task. That sounds hard. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of people who present very well, but don't do things very well. How do you know unless you're on the tech side? Well, I know when I go to a doctor, there's some university things on the wall. I know when I go to accountant, there's the CPA. There is things that they have to accredit them. I know when I want a contractor who's properly bonded and insured, especially because I have to have a tree trimmer come out. And while I'm positive I can get a lower price from the guy with the pickup truck, I want someone who is more than just some guy with a truck and a saw. I want someone who's insured, bonded, professional. And how do you distinguish that in the IT? It's a little bit less mature, I think, of a field, but getting there where we have to have some certification program. So I think in the future, there will be some validation that goes on IT companies that will give consumers or businesses a better understanding of like what the status of these companies are. I want a VPN GUI that lets me add and remove users, generates all-in-one OVPN files with the keys and whatnot, with automatic key generation and revocation. And let me view all the logs for relevant IP connected, whatever, for entire logs. Yeah. And for clients, I just want to double click, find, call it a day. Yeah, it'd be nice. As I said, yep, BSD. I thought Jason said all this stuff, most stuff is BSD. So I like if you look it up, we talked about this. He's been I got to bring him back on the show sometime. But Michael Lucas is awesome, and if you haven't heard the name Michael Lucas, you've probably heard of several of his books. They're really good books on things like SSH and lots of free BSD. He's got his SSH Mastery book, ZFS Mastery, and his BSD Mastery. But he used to write. Whenever I hear BSD, I always think of the columns I didn't know he used to write. I think starting in the 90s or early 2000s. They were called the Big Scary Daemons, and he would have fun articles he wrote for things like that. Michael Lucas is awesome. You can find an interview with him on the channel from years ago. I wouldn't mind bringing him back. He's just a really interesting character. And I say character because if you've ever met Michael Lucas, you're like, that guy's a character. He's a lot of fun. Probably not. Is the attic a good place for a small home lab, but gets hot in the summer? Heat is the enemy of computers. If you think about things at scale in data centers, what are they trying to do? They build giant, elaborate heat removal systems. The HVAC systems are a big piece in consideration of not just the data centers, but even your home lab. And anyone who's had a small area by which they try to run things in, they realize, oh, there's a lot of heat in here. So that may not be the best place for it. That may be a pretty terrible place because of the heat. 5K will last about 1 month of the electric bill in the UK. Okay. Yeah. Power is cost one, but don't forget noise output, heat output, and the corresponding cooling requirements. Yes. Those are all things. Yes. Have I deployed a domain that requires YubiKey authentication? No. Jason does have some Meraki stuff too. Well, maybe we'll talk about some Meraki stuff on the channel now that me and Jason Slagle have merged our companies. Well, after, depending on when you're watching this, July 1st is the official, but we're in the process of merging our companies together. I want to have pfSense restart Radius every night at midnight so I can change the guest password. I know where the Radius user files are, but I don't know the best way to restart the Radius service. You could put a cron job to do it, but I don't understand why you would need Radius to restart to do it. Wouldn't you just need to change it? Because Radius is being queried for the guest password. I'm assuming based on how you're, I'm implied at least that you have it set up. And you could probably just write something that changes that password. So, probably post that in the pfSense forums, but you can just do cron jobs. The services in pfSense can be restarted just like any other service, and it shouldn't be a big deal to restart it that way, but I think there's probably a better way of doing it. I watched so many of your videos since I found David Bommel's collab. Great channel. You should be proud. Thank you very much. I haven't talked to David in a minute. I need to reach out to him again. I look this way because there's a Cisco laying on the floor, and I actually got the review about done. I just got to like turn it into a video. But I'm still using. I got a couple of these Cisco units, and they're not bad. But I figured I'll talk about some of these Cisco small business units that I've been testing. I've already talked about how bad the Cisco dashboard is, and I don't even think I feel like revisiting how bad that is. But the units themselves, like the switches independently, are actually pretty good. I like the switches. I'm just not big on the. I'm just not real big on the, what do you call it? So, let's see. All right. Make sure I don't have any emergencies on my phone. So, let's see. What certification do you requirement for IT folks, learn systems, and everyone? Uh, it's not a requirement. It's a nice to have. It can be challenging sorting out IT people, figuring out who is or is not good at what they do. Certifications can be a filter for that. We do encourage, I do, and as the people at CNW do, that people level up and get some certifications. But it's not an absolute mandate that you have to have it. I'm proof, if you will. Like, I don't have certs, but I've been working in the business for over 25 years. Since 1995, I've been doing this, and yeah, it's challenging. But what you do is, I especially if you don't know what you want to do in IT, that's where certs are really good, to get you some direction. Going, I don't know what I want to do, and certs can help give you a structured learning path to say, all right, my goal is to get this particular certification that may require you learning several things. So I think there's good reasons to get them. And of course, if the job you're eyeing has that as a requirement on there, go get that cert. We ask people to get certs that help us with partnerships with vendors. Yep, that too. Vendor partnerships, there's search for those too. So there's a lot around that. I recently purchased a TP-Link DX23 access point. You can only manage from an iOS or Android app. I was running OpenWRT on the TP-Link wireless routers, using the access points. Those are interesting. Are you watching Mental Outlaw videos? He does some news stuff, but I don't really watch a lot of my news on YouTube. YouTube is not where I get my news from. I don't see much in a way. Maybe I'm wrong, but he looks like news topics, because someone had asked me before about Mental Outlaw. I don't really know anything about the person who runs the channel, but they have some random videos on there that appear to be like covering current topics, which is fine. I do that, but from a consumption standpoint, I read faster than I listen to the podcast, but I also listen to them at like 2x or more. And YouTube, I can only speed up to 2x unless I go through the trouble of downloading it. And frequently, I kind of prefer to read. So I don't listen to a lot of news things via YouTube. Right now, Kubernetes and Docker. Yes, Kubernetes and Docker are extremely popular. I need to get my Kubernetes cluster working, but focus right now is on finding hardware for the ARM side of the cluster. Yeah, that's the Kubernetes stuff it's a hot topic right now because it's a nice orchestration tool, but it's a complicated one. So not everybody knows it. Therefore, there's a demand for this tool that can do all these things, but then finding people who can manage something. There's actually a really good debrief Reddit did on their failure when they had to update Kubernetes. And it's kind of a fun thing to read through, because Kubernetes being complicated is the way you could sum up what happened to Reddit a few months ago. Now, summing up what happened to Reddit now is a completely different problem. They're not worried about Kubernetes anymore. So they've went into self-destruct. But I don't know. I'm not big on the consolidation of the internet. So I accept it when it does happen sometimes, but actually I'm seeing some peel off to forums. There's a reason I never put my forums on Reddit, by the way. I always kept them separate from Reddit, and that's not by any accident. I have the ability to maintain and control and host my forums, which means I get to set the rules and things like that. And that is my preferred way to do it. That's why I do it that way. Yeah, Kubernetes is awesome until it's in production and the networking explodes. Yeah, when Kubernetes goes wrong, it goes wrong. What is your recommendation on a good wireless AP solution? TP-Link seems good, but their software is horrible. I'll agree with that. TP-Link, I don't think, has the best software. Honestly, as much as people want a competitor to UniFi, and I agree, I would love to see more competitors to UniFi, but UniFi makes a really good product and are really hard to compete with. Speaking of which, that's one of the topics I have today. I am almost done with my review of the Ultra Wireless. Chris from Crosstalk Solutions finished his review. Me and Chris, by the way, we completely talk quite a bit about things like this. Ultra reached out to us, and me and Chris talked about these, and I've got one set up here, and I've got another one. This one I just took it back from my office, but this is a company that is claiming to be a UniFi competitor. And I say claiming, and I'm going to put together, not Chris's review is solid. Watch Chris's review on it. But I have a slightly different take in terms of what I think of the company. And I think they're not doing a bad job. So too long didn't watch the video. Tom will probably get done tomorrow. I think Alta's a pretty neat company, but they need to, and I did a YouTube short on purpose to say I switched my Wi-Fi to Alta. And then I mentioned that video that they're cloud only because I wanted you, the audience, to start leaving all the comments that I absolutely expected you to leave. Hey, cloud only, count me out. Fair enough. Fair enough. And I agree with you completely on there because they implied at first they were going to have a cloud or a self-hosted option, not cloud only. When I engaged and talked with them, they're like, oh no, we're definitely, had like a Zoom meeting, if you will. They're like, oh no, we're going to be cloud only. And then I talked to Chris. I'm like, yeah, they tell you cloud only. Chris is like, yeah, they said cloud only. I said, fair enough. So I did the video and said they're cloud only. That got us a response, both me and Chris. We got an email, and the email says we're working on a locally hosted version because apparently the audience cares about a locally hosted version. So here we are. My review is going to talk about the email I got, and I'll talk about who runs the company. And I think it's one of those, it works. And I see, let's see. This is one of the things that Jason's bringing up. He's not wrong about this. UniFi is good for non-challenging Wi-Fi environments. And in challenging environments, we solve UniFi problems by throwing more UniFis at it. There is, and maybe we'll revisit this, there's definitely some things you can do with some of the other higher end Wi-Fi, but I don't know. I'm mixed on this, and maybe me and Jason will have a debate about this, and we'll do some testing on it. And I really want to break down where UniFi fails and where UniFi doesn't, because we've done them in some pretty complicated projects, but I know Jason's running into some problems with them. So we're going to see where some of the middle is on that. So that's definitely going to be pretty interesting to do, because our solution is like to turn down the RF experience on the UniFi when there's a congested environment and put more UniFi in. But you could say, well, Tom, you could solve this with a single, oh, auto channel sucks. Yeah. Okay. Auto channel sucks. We'll go with, he's not wrong there. He wins that argument. But what it comes down to is when the other competing products have substantially more cost, and I can then put in a couple more UniFi cheaper, I kind of solve the problem in a different way. So different ways to solve the problem. But yeah, the Alta Labs is actually, this is the part I'm going to cover in my video. Alta Labs, this is the same Qualcomm as the UniFi has, like the same chip in a different design. And of course, you'd say, well, the firmware is different. Yes, but not that different. When I say not that different, the firmware they're using is OpenWRT, just like UniFi. The guy who wrote the firmware used to work for Ubiquiti. Now he works for Alta. So I'm going to cover some of the behind the scenes of Alta. They are staffed with several former Ubiquiti people who were firmware developers and product people at Ubiquiti. So the product itself, and I like I said, they're off to a good start because the coverage on this has been solid. The problems we had were like none. It just worked. So I think they're doing some cool things with this. I believe the wattage usage is higher on the Alta, but they're also doing DPI. So they have some filtering and DPI capabilities that make them a little bit different than UniFi. And by doing that, it stresses these a little bit more. So the wattage usage seems to be a little bit higher, but not that much. And it didn't cause any problems. And therefore, I think it's a pretty cool product. So I have a favorable review, but they don't have the local hosted controller out. So when would you buy it? The opinion is probably going to be the same. Is going to be, hey, people will want to buy it as soon as they can have a locally hosted controller. I just, when you're a cloud company, a cloud only company selling me a bunch of Wi-Fi's, it's hard for me to bet on you especially when you're new, you're startup, you only have a handful of people. That's awesome that you're able to get a product out. That's a big challenge to even get to market with a product like this. But if you go out, I have something I can't manage. These are only managed through the cloud. There's no local way to manage these. So it's a lot of faith I have to put in to sell something that I hope will continue to work. That is where the big challenge is with these companies. So yeah, that's just a big hang up for me of putting that faith that they will be here tomorrow. Because if they're not here tomorrow and their cloud goes away, so does all of my ability to manage these devices. But yes, UniFi management is just a layer on top of Linux boxes. Yeah, and on top of OpenWRT. So they're running OpenWRT on these on the access points. The switches, I can't remember. I think the switches might be partially BIOS based, and so are their. Well, I think they're more custom now, but like their early generations of the Edge series and some of the other ones were BIOS forks. Is it BIOS or there's a fork before BIOS? I think BIOS is another fork. There's another fork of another one. They're all based on some of these open source things with tons of customization. But yes, all Linux inside. That's what powers the Ubiquity world. Uh, uh, I think it's so. Let me. So let's share the tab and throw it up. So BIOS, which a lot of people I it's a pretty cool system. I don't know that I plan on doing a video on it. People always ask me for a video on it, and what's the audience that wants me to do it? I mean, there's always those few people, but one, I don't use this every day, and if I did, maybe I'd do videos on it, but I think it's so niche that you don't have enough people that would even view the video. It's kind of like the same people who asked me about um doing MikroTik videos. And by the way, there's another YouTube channel, the Network Berg. He does MikroTik videos. They barely get any views, and he's got a good sized channel and a good following. And I've referred people who say I'd like a MikroTik video. I just know there's like enough people asking about it, but when they find out like, oh, this is a little bit harder than I thought, they're going to go back to wanting to have a video about something like pfSense. The Ubiquity switches are actually pretty nice. I got to admit, I like the Ubiquity switches. Uh, let's see. I can log into one of them real quick here. I do. Well, I've talked about recently the changes Ubiquity decided to make with the way they do their trunking now, or the way they label their trunking. So they've actually made it for reasons I don't know. They changed it. Like it's not that confusing after I started using it, but I'm just like, why would you change it? Like I've spent a lot of time uh, doing it a certain way in a video and explaining it and documentation for years the same way, and then you change to be something different. But yeah, it's the way they do things like their port manager. I think they do a nice job. They brought a nice UI to doing port management and things like that on switches. I gotta admit, I think they've done us a good job on that. So my overall feelings on Ubiquity are like, okay, you guys, you brought it easier, especially for the home lab people. That's why they're hard to compete with, because they're giving you a self-hosted controller, and at the same time, you get this kind of nice interface for managing all of it. That's a pretty good deal. And I think it's just hard for a competitor to start up in the market and try to inch into that market. I mean, TP-Link Omada came close because they just copied everything Ubiquity is doing right down to the interface. I mean, talk about copying. It's if you've looked at the Omada interface, it's not kind of like UniFi's. It's a whole lot like UniFi's, which is neat. People know it, but they didn't bother innovating. They just copied. They didn't make a better copy either. They actually kind of copied some of the goofiness too. So there's that. Back to the pfSense topic, because something else I want to bring up about pfSense. So let's gotta log into it. Only way to really express what I want to say. So let's go here. And what version are we running? We'll probably have to update it again. Is there another version? But zoom in a little, make it easier for people to read. Oh, there's a new one because I'm running the latest builds. But yes, pfSense is in beta. We'll go ahead and update it to the latest beta. I'm doing a video on it soon. Maybe I'll just wait till it comes out to do the video because people will be excited about it. But people keep saying it's so close, or that it's almost here. And I'm like, yes, it's almost here, but it takes a while for the CE edition. By the way, in the meantime, did you know pfSense Plus is free? So, oh, Jason's making lots of new friends. The merger video, I did link to Jason's profile. So, yes, there's definitely going to be a lot of connections that Jason Jason gets from that. That's going to be fun. Is UniFi controller sluggish like Omada? I don't find it sluggish at all. I actually find let me share this tab. I don't go over here. Let's look like at systems. You're watching me do this in real time. So I'm going to go with mine's not sluggish. But if you run this on something that's really slow, then it's going to be sluggish because you put it on a slow system. And I'm able to jump between all of these with ease. Topology, jump over to the dashboard. I don't find the interface sluggish at all, at least not on my system. Let's see. Page will automatically reload. The system is rebooting. It's virtual, so we'll share this here. We can watch it reboot because we're doing it live. Perhaps already discussed. If not, what's your thoughts on Proxmox VE 8.0? I don't use Proxmox, but I don't have anything against it. So if you like Proxmox and it's the system you really want to use it. Jay has some videos on it from Learn Linux TV. Learn Linux TV videos are really solid tutorials, and you can learn Proxmox there. I just don't use it. We don't have anybody. I don't even really run into people in the commercial space that use it. I know that they have some commercial uses, but it's really not something I've only done migrations from people away from it. Now, granted, I'm going to be biased because my bias is I talk about XCP-ng. Therefore, it's going to be people who also want XCP-ng. So that's probably the biggest reason why. I wish more UI switches had more 2.5 gig offerings. I don't even like 2.5 gig. I'm not going to lie. I think it's dumb. So that's why I haven't talked about it a lot. I think it's like, why do we come up with a half standard after? So we have the 1 gig standard, and then circa 2006, we get a 10 gig standard. Great. Let's move to it. No, somehow let's go back and do a 2.5 gig. But why? Maybe I'm just missing things. Yeah. Yeah, it's distance. I know it's because you can run 2.5 gig over Cat 5e. You can run 5 gig over Cat 5e. So, but I don't know. It just feels such a small incremental thing, and it seems like a headache. Like, I guess I know the why, but it doesn't make me any happier. I don't like the standard. Just get 10 gig works. 10 gig works over Cat 5e. I have 10 gig connected on Cat 5e because I'm too lazy to repull wire in my studio here. I have Cat 5e at my office running 10 gig because, answer again, Tom didn't feel like rewiring it. Why? Because it works over short distances, I should say. Is it worth paying for pfSense devices? I've been running it on a mini PC, cheap NUC, but needs an upgrade soon. I like the Netgate devices because I trust them. That's what we're going to put at our business clients. I think they're really solid. They come, preloaded with pfSense Plus. Like I said, I think they do a good job on it. I have nothing against them, but do you need it? That's kind of an up to you thing. Buying it does support the pfSense project, so there's also that as a benefit. But if you are budget constrained, I don't frown upon people who go, I didn't have the budget to afford the nice Netgate 8200, so I bought XYZ box that I could find that was really cheap. I mean, obviously, I prefer to support Netgate, but I don't shame people who decide not to buy them. My preference is to buy them. They're extremely reliable. I think they're a very high quality product. I think they're very well engineered and well designed. So that's my opinion on them. Is the Netgate 8200, 6100 overkill, too expensive for a home lab? I don't think so. Either one of those. We see actually a lot of people buying a 6100 for a home lab. It comes down to your budget. I mean, if you can afford nicer stuff, buy nice stuff. But if you're going, I'm going to have to eat ramen noodles for a little while to afford this. I mean, pick your choices on there. They make a very dependable, reliable product, but don't go broke buying it. I realize I try to be very conscious of the home lab audiences that I know are often more getting started in tech and may not have the budget for things. So I try not to. This is something where I think Linus has dialed it back a bit, but I know Linus, he had a lot of popularity for showing off some ultra expensive things, and that's fun. But at some point, you kind of go, well, I want to be able to talk about things that I can get my hands on. So I especially me and Jeff Geerling and several and Jay from More Like TV, we're all friends and we've chatted and we've talked about, yeah, the Raspberry Pi videos aren't very popular because the first question is always, well, we can't get them. Why bother talking about them? And it kind of goes, yeah, I don't want to talk about things people can't have. I want people to participate and be able to go, Tom talked about this cool thing that's in my budget that I can buy and also play with. And that's, comes circle to like open source. That's one of the reasons I like a lot of those projects. You can play with these in your lab. I wish more consumers realized that 10 gig had been current gen for more than a decade. Yeah, more than a decade. Is this a cash grab for abusing customers? It's the retooling involved that makes it kind of a challenge. Upgrade progress day went okay, no major issues. Only home setup though. Awesome. Cable companies cap 2.5 bit limitations. Welcome to Charter's world. Yeah. You can't really determine that though, that the issue is 2.5 gig versus 100 versus 400 versus 10 gig. Not sure you can sense it well enough, or it could be wrong. I've done some testing of out of spec cabling. Matter of fact, what's really interesting is me and um, he's on the committee. I've done an interview with him. He does he's on the IEEE standards committee, but we talked about where the overhead is, how you can go out of spec. I've also done a video using Game Changer. That's their brand name, Game Changer cable. And by twisting it a little bit different, they're actually able to get substantially, now granted it won't certify, but they're able to go substantially further with some of the cables. I say won't certify because the length of the cable is a determining factor in whether or not you can certify. You cannot have a cable certifier that, because they can recognize the distance of the cable, but you don't want that to go beyond the distance because now you're out of spec. But it is cool that you can play with the numbers and stretch the bandwidth a little further in the cables, and that's kind of neat. So I like those cheap noodles too. Ramen or ramen. I don't know. Ramen or ramen. Call them what you want. They're still one of my favorite lunches. You get some ramen noodles, some kimchi, and then some soy sauce. Sometimes I'll throw in there. It's a pretty simple meal. When you get it cooked up, you drop an egg in there, maybe 2 eggs while it's boiling. Boom, you got yourself a meal. That's still something I like. Speaking of Geerling, what's up with Red Hat and CentOS? We talked a little bit about the Home Lab show. They're making a lot of changes. I don't really have a fully formed opinion until I take the time to deeply read and understand what they're doing here. But yeah, Red Hat's definitely not making any friends in the community by sounds like only providing certain sources to the is it the CentOS stream, I think, is only get it. I don't know. Me and Jay talked about it. Jay has a lot to say about it. We covered it on the Home Lab show yesterday. Apart from Netgate support, do DIY versions cost the same, cost less for the same performance? Well, this is where things get a little fuzzy. I talked before and I got a weird email from them about it. I did a video about all the failures we've had with some of the boxes, and the company, it was funny because they didn't reply to me, but this is the interaction I had. I talked about several of these boxes failing, and I mean like 5 or 6 of them. So, okay, these failed. That sucks. And we replaced them. We bought them years ago. They were only about 4 years old, but 4 years old for a hardware firewall to fail is not good. And I had commented on their failures. The company reached out and says, well, you should have reached out to us. I'm like, did you know that these are problematic? And I said, did you reach out to me because you seen a YouTube video? And if I wasn't someone who would have posted on YouTube, would you even have replied to me if I had asked you to replace something that was out of warranty? Dead air, never replied to me. I just want to know the truth. Are you mad because that or you're mad because you're just mad because I'm a YouTuber. Would you have helped me if I wasn't? If I didn't have a voice of a community that a community was engaged with, would you have even bothered? So yeah. So let's move on to this. Excellent point would say 10 gig over 2E. Sadly, MBE's manufacturers and chips and run them have not got the mainstream consumer market. Yeah, it takes a while to get to the consumer market because the 2.5 gig comes out and then a pandemic happened and supply chain happened and everything else. I'm a bit behind in a video, but you can't knock ramen, rum noodles, or even better, drunken noodles. Look that up. Those are good too. Jason nailed it here. Red Hat is doing dumb. That sets up. I think red is turning a little to a blue hat. Well, just IBM purchased them, and then IBM recently remembered. Oh yeah, we bought Red Hat. Let's go shake the money tree. No, we didn't even get to the talk about Synology cameras. We'll talk about that next. Because I'm really happy with it. What's your take on Robo switches? They seem to work fine. I really haven't had any complaints about them. We only used a handful. We never deployed any of them at scale, but we've run into plenty of clients with them and they seem to work. I would not say that they've been a problematic switch, but the Synology cameras, on the other hand, I forgot that I posted first. I was like, people ask about Synology cameras. Like, no, Tom did post a picture of himself posing with a Synology camera. So it makes sense. I wanted to talk about that today. The real issue there is retooling the 1 gig chip to do a 2.5 gig isn't hard. Doing 400 megahertz is a tougher thing. No. Yeah. And there's also, I've learned talking to engineers at places about the chip companies changing things up on them and the way Intel quietly, it was an article. It takes you down an engineering rabbit hole. It's not something you find necessarily in the mainstream news, but the way these chips work is obviously they expect if I'm going to spend my engineering time designing a PCB board for a switch to use this particular chip, I expect variation. There's actually like some expectations where you'll get guarantees for this many years of support and this many product line. And there was a bunch of controversy. And the only place that I found any articles on it, and this goes back like a year or two ago, was from Phoronix covered it. And Intel changed the terms of how they're doing some of this stuff and made some of it harder for these developers. And of course, it made it incompatible because they also made some type of driver change. I didn't completely I don't remember the article in detail, but it was like, that's interesting because there's an engineer in a Reddit forum talking about the pain that Intel kind of inflicted for them having to retool a bunch of things. But yeah, there's a lot to it that can come into that. So yeah, yes. Let's see. 5G internet using pfSense can speed test full Cs, but can't perform my arc clone back 400. Any ideas? Depends on the destination. And there, people run into even speed tests because you'll find once you start going beyond 1 gig internet, you may find some places have throttling. They may throttle you to a certain speed. That's just the way things end up. And not much I can really point you in the right direction on that. The easy way to test it is take the pfSense and just use it, like take your WAN, make it to another local access and see if it's any type of routing going through pfSense causing a problem. Not a fan of the Protectelli. It moved to Netgate, but the support was good when I had issues 3 years after purchase. That's good. By chance, the Protectelli devices use a J1900 from Intel. There were some Intel chips. The ones we had did not. It was not a J1900 problem. And I will catch you later after dinner if I'm still around. I don't know how long this is going to go for. How the new G5 cameras UniFi downgraded to the 100 gig. You don't need 1 gig to have cameras, by the way. Is the Intel NIC pay maybe why we are seeing so many Realtek NICs now, or is it just the cost difference? Availability is part of it too. Intel's going to be your preferred NIC vendor, but if you can't find Intel, but you want to get product out the door, you got to figure out a solution. That's yeah. Lots of services throttle, so fun to tell my buddies I have that. Yeah. Let's go ahead and share this tab instead, but what I need to do here is there we go. People complain because they can hear all the birds, so I have to mute the screen audio. Are there any pfSense tools to block those annoying ads and speed it up from browsers? Uh, Not really. What you want to do is I recommend using um uBlock Origin. That would be my suggestion if for browser stuff. There is PF Blocker, but uBlock Origin is going to be better for that. Let's see. Why does flow control need to be enabled on proper 2 gig, IVDM Pro, with firewall switched off, 10 gig fiber line, Aruba switch, MikroTik controller, multi gig adapters, 2.5 gig? I don't know. I don't know what problem you're running into. UIAP recommend Floor OpenMaker House currently have a Amada EP6 thing switching. I like the for home use, the UniFi LR long ranges are really good. By the way, you're looking at a Synology camera here. This is I'm really happy with how good it looks. Any word on single pane of glass for multiple client Netgate pfSense management? It's in the works, but they don't put dates on things like that. So unfortunately, no. Intel, Mellanox, Chelsea. Well, Mellanox and Chelsea are great once you're 10 gig and above. They're popular, but I'm not even certain if they offer. Maybe I haven't looked into it. If they even offer a 2.5 gig option. If there are no Intel, then you must choose between Realtek, Broadcom, Aquinas, or some other weird options. Yeah, if like Chris had mentioned, if you look at things like Mellanox and Chelsea, you're talking about not something that's kind of like Intel. You're talking about something that's probably even better. Those are companies that make some really good chips, so they're not going to be the budget choice. Any news on the XCP&G UI update? Yeah, they have a blog post about it. I talked about it 2 weeks ago, so there's not much on it. They're targeting, I think they said like this later this year. So that's pretty much when I'm hoping to see that. Later this year, that's what the goal is. What happened to the time lapse project you were talking about? Which one? I have some time lapses I did. I gotta turn them into videos. The content creation is quite kind of a big thing. Fastest way to perform a remote copy, rsync, but rsync over SSH is going to be slower. So I don't know. Generally, I mean, it's usually rsync is probably one of my go-tos. Sorry, yawning a little bit. rsync is probably my go-to when it comes to get data from here to over there. But frequently, because it's from NAS to NAS, it's usually moving over NFS or SMB. Those are the two popular platforms I'll do it. Annoyed by bird sounds? Wish I could wake up every morning on that sound. I do get to listen to bird sounds. I like waking up. Still waiting for a day in Tom's life video. It's a boring day of me sitting in front of the computer a lot. So it's me doing this, typing away. I don't know what to film when it comes to a day in my life, but I will since I made the merger announcement. The CNWR office is pretty cool and getting cooler. They just got a new office and it's cooler than mine. I'm not gonna lie. So I will be talking about the CNWR office. I'll probably do some videos from there. So, yay, I got more places to film. Let's see here. The Synology camera, though, one of the things I really like about it, and let's go ahead and actually go into the camera setup. I'm going to have my updated review of it, but I just like the way these cameras work. And if we go here, if you want to change network settings on the camera, connection, all that, they just did a nice integration. And I like the fact that I can mix and match. So here's the Synology camera that's running this. And I get all these, and these are what the menus look like because all these features are enabled in there that I can update them. But here's my Look at my driveway cam. Less menus, but I can still do optimizations, live view, stream, all these other advanced features all work fine with the non-Synology cameras as well. So I'm really happy. I'm probably going to do like a whole getting started with Synology video, breaking it all down. We sell a lot of Synology. They just they're a really set it and forget it trouble-free device. It is well, if you go through our tickets, you're like, yeah, there's not a lot of tickets for Synology because once you set up these MVRs and stuff outside of hey, can you help me get this recording because some people are just less technical, and or hey, we're running out of storage because I changed all the settings. Yeah, that's a support question, but people who don't poke at it definitely don't have problems with it. It's definitely pretty cool. Synology camera as an app or hardware, it's both. You have the Synology recorder and the Synology camera, so it's both. We've been testing it now. How long did I do that Synology video? Is it like 2 months ago? It's been running pretty much continuous. It wasn't outside the whole time. It was at my office for a while, and then we moved it to here. So yes, nonetheless, it's I'm the whole combination of things. The surveillance system, who's unknown. Oh no, someone's on the porch, and it's my wife. Some packages. I have it doing some face recognition on the porch, so it lets me know someone was on the porch. It's weird because it says unknown, but I have my wife in the face database. Probably don't have the good shot of her in there. Can I set up a pfSense WAN LAN with fiber optic connectivity up to 10 gig? Yes. Yeah, you can do that. You have to get a board that has SFP support and then get a fiber optic connector for it. Apps can't connect up VMs running inside virtual proxmox, which is running my DNS TCP, causing issues that need DNS. Oh, that was the other part of the question. Trying to decide if I don't know what I'm doing or if I found a bug in TrueNAS Scale, doing something out of scope running proxmox on top of TrueNAS Scale box, networking problems. Apps can't contact VMs running inside the virtual proxmox. Yeah, I don't know. There's not a bug, but it's a feature for that I don't understand is if you virtualize inside of TrueNAS, and I don't know why they did this, but they've decided this is the way they want it done. When you build a virtual machine inside of TrueNAS, and we'll share this tab, it's not a bug, it's just the way they designed it. So here's my Tom's Ubuntu system. And the network that it's connected to. So if we go to, I'm going to guess it's under, whoops, not delete device. There we go. And we go to the NIC and we edit the NIC. And we say, which NIC are you attached to? And I'm attached to this network card right here. If that happens to be the same network interface that TrueNAS runs on, I can't talk to it. That's by their design. Look up bridging. They have a way around it where you got to build a bridge between the devices, but I don't know why it defaults like that. That's not the way I think it should default. So I've shared my opinions with the developer team. They don't think I'm right. Someone said when me and Wendell from Level 1 Tech separately, we both talked about this. The people in the forum said we were just trying to get views and clicks on YouTube by complaining about it, which I thought was kind of funny. I'm like, why? We don't want views and clicks complaining about something. That's not what we do. We want to do a tutorial that doesn't require setting up a bridge in a more complicated way. So I don't know. You might be running up that bug. Yeah, I have a bridge set for TrueNAS, but I'm running at the bridge inside of Proxmox VMs causing issue. I don't know. I've never tried running Proxmox inside of TrueNAS. Never tried it before. So you're in uncharted territory for Tom. But I do know you need a bridge for reasons I can't understand other than the developers said so. I don't understand why. The developers had a dumb reason that I said made no sense. They said they did it for security. I'm like, what? You have a NAS. Who wouldn't want the VMs that are running inside of a NAS to talk to the NAS? That doesn't make any sense to me. So, yes. Nonetheless, it's just, yes, there's sometimes, there's just silliness that goes on occasionally with developers, and it's a thing. I don't know. They have opinions. I have different opinions. That's where that's going to land. How long have I been going for? I've been going for an hour. So I probably have a few more things I want to get done. What are the final questions we want to ask for Tom? Because at some point, Tom is going to go do some bicycling because I need to get out and exercise. I've been in a basement creating stuff for a lot and emailing clients, and I have emails I have to reply to still. I try to make sure I keep up with anything I have to reply to customers on. Most of it's actually all on tickets. I can't really say I have emails to reply to. I just make sure any tickets that are assigned to me, which are sometimes just engagements and design stuff, that I always keep on top of replying to everybody. So. Oh, let's see here. What styles are you using for the AI cams? Do you have to buy specific models to get the AI cam AI? No. Yes. That's complicated. Well, not too complicated. There's two versions I have of the Synology videos. I have a video on the Synology DVA, and I talk about the features of the Synology DVA series. That is their deep video analytics system. So I have videos on that. Separately, I did a video of using the non-DVA model. And these are both Synology videos you can find on cameras. One of them is how to do it with, and let me pull it back up real quick, how to do the detection with the Amcrest cameras. So if we go to cameras here, and we look at my driveway cam as an example, we go to edit, and you go down here to event detection, and down here we have the ability to zoom too far in. SMD, SMD. So these are the motion detection, something like system motion detection, whatever it stands for. You check these boxes and then you log into the camera and have the camera itself doing the detection. And when you're doing it that way, you don't need a Synology that has the DVA functions. But if you want the Synology to do the deep video analytics, not the camera, then you can buy one of the DVA models. But there's some limitations with the DVA models because when you start processing it on the Synology, you only have so many cores in your processor, depending on which model, to allow a certain number of those detections. So I actually would recommend that you get the cameras that can do it. Now, Synology released cameras that have in-camera analytics. So if you get the Synology camera analytics, it's doing it in camera and you don't need a Synology DVA. But if you want to do things that are the DVA features, such as, and we'll zoom back out here and show you, with the DVA features, you have the ability to do, and my video goes in more depth on this. You can go to face detection and you can have it detect and name people and then find them. So it goes a step further. It does license plate detection. It does car counting or vehicle counting, etc. So there's more features you get with the deep video analytics inside here, and they all can be combined together. The Synology is actually a pretty thorough and complete ecosystem. There's a lot of stuff that you could do with it. So it's pretty cool. But yes, there's a lot to the Synology platform. It's going to take it's one of those things. That's why people hire us to set all these up for people and consult with what they want to integrate. But it's a good platform if you take. By the way, I say take the time to learn it because their documentation is good. They have a lot of documentation with Synology. This is one of those things that makes or breaks the product. Is not only does the product work well, but is it documented so you can figure out how it works. About surveillance cam, can you recommend compatible ones with pfSense? Is it best Wi-Fi wired or BNC connection? NVR, DVR, thanks for your help. It doesn't matter when it comes to pfSense. The pfSense doesn't really have much to do with your surveillance system. So go with my recommendation for home users and for businesses has frequently been Synology. They make a good platform. I've talked about them. If you look up like Synology Amcrest, I have videos that cover the integration of the two, and you can mix and match. You don't have to use the Amcrest cameras, but the Amcrest cameras work really well. Hardline is definitely the way to go, not Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi cameras can be more of a headache. I'm not a big fan of them personally, unless you absolutely have to use Wi-Fi ones. But if you can, hardline the cameras. And PoE cameras. Don't go with anything that's BNC. The BNC stuff is old, and with the exception, I know there's SDI, which is an exception to that. But for the most part, most of the consumer level BNC stuff is I need to play with Frigate for AI stuff. The Real Link NVR ain't that good after all. In the middle of the night, it can freak out with while there's a car in your garbage. Yeah, that can be fun. Showed up late, caught up. 2x was crazy. So scrub and go. Awesome. My cams are the UniFi, so it'd be reading our TSP streams. And that is what I want to analyze, but also looking to store 40 gig of regular data. Okay. If I'm missing something, Synology only supports single network VLAN per port. No, you can do multiple. I think I never set them up that way. I usually don't set them up that way. I usually do per port and set it up. I think that maybe I'm wrong, and maybe that's how you have to set it up. Let's look real quick. I just don't usually define the VLANs on Synology, but I'm pretty sure you can define the VLANs on Synology. It's just not the way I do it. Throw it up here real quick. So this one's not. So edit. Yeah. So you can grab a VLAN off of there. So yeah, you can send a trunk to it and grab a VLAN if you want. So that does work. I guess if that's what you're looking for. I guess I don't know what the goal is either. Speaking of the old, why is UIL a passive PoE? I don't know. Turbo, officially, your Synology cannot trunk ports. Yeah, okay, you're asking. Well, I don't know what the goal is there because you can pull from a trunk port to get a specific VLAN off, and if I'm not mistaken, you can create. Well, I have to look. I have to look since they updated to how the virtual machines work on there. You want to use a single port and put 2 VLANs on it. Yeah, I don't. There might not be a way to do that. That answer depends a lot where you're at. So you can use Synology Surveillance Station on the pretty basic models, and you have to look up the pricing. It comes down to like the hard drives. What size hard drive do you want? The storage is a variable on there, but you can go on Amazon and find them. The pricing isn't secret or anything at all. So let's say you were buying $100 Amcrest cameras. So $100 a piece for the cameras, maybe several $100 for the UniFi of the Synology. I said UniFi Synology box. And you will need a couple licenses. They're perpetual, but they're one-time purchase licenses you'll need for the cameras because it only comes with like 2 licenses. So you got to buy a couple more. So maybe around $1,000, $1,200. It all depends on how much storage and which cameras. The one where we talked about RTSP UniFi Synology for time lapse. Oh yeah, that worked. That was that did we set that up a long time ago and it did work. I kind of forget. I know what you're talking about now. It might be still working. Let me go look. I don't know. We ever turned it off. We turned it on. Where's the surveillance station on this? I'll find it. So we got cameras. There we go. So yeah, you can do that. I don't think we set up the time lapsing, but this is a UniFi camera. And you can see in the bottom corner here. So this is a UniFi camera being fed into a Synology. So yes, you can do that. I just didn't time lapse it because I ran out of space. We were playing with it, but then I didn't have a lot of space on this system, and I wasn't going to add more drives just for that. I just said, I'm done. It works. I'm happy. So, all right. We've gone an hour and 9 minutes. So thank you, everyone who joined. This has been awesome. Always love hanging out and talking with everyone here. And love hearing from you in the forums, engaging with on the socials, sometimes on the Twitters. I don't, I thought I would get more DMs. The DMs on Twitter seems to be ramping up for spammers lately. I thought when, so there was going to be some changes, we'd see less spam, but we certainly have not seen less spam. It's always hello there, beautiful, and spammers on there. And it's just, uh, it's too much spam on Twitter. But if non-spammers want to say hi on Twitter, I'm okay with that too. Didn't answer KMK. I don't know. What is KMK? What's the KMK question you asked? Uh, Make sure you lube, you clean your bike, and remove any unused accessories before the race. Bet my bucks on your team. Yes. Is that the question? If you do the at Lawrence, I don't always see them. Because the tagging doesn't tell me anything other. I usually assume when people are tagging, they're uh, replying to somebody else. Hey, I'm glad I can help there. Hi from Germany, no spam. I didn't see what question you asked about those. Or did you send an email question? I'm not sure. Well, I got to wind this down. Ping me on the socials. Hit me up over on the forums. And what else we have? Okay. I'm losing context for the question, but hey, the forums is a good place to ask questions because I definitely take the time to answer them all in there. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I will see you next week, and I'll see you after I've got more miles on my bicycle. Take care.